Do you want to feel again? Are you curious about exploring, sensing pleasure through your senses and moving in a way that is free from inhibition and full of self expression? Well, you're on the right place. I am Candia Raquel, and this is the Sensual Sessions Podcast. And today we have a very special guest. This is Kelli Cooper from New Jersey, from the States, and she's a great coach on manifestation and works from the heart out through the power of intention. So welcome, Kelli. I am very happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to talking. I really like kind of what your whole vibe is about and what you're talking about. And I think it will mesh well with, my approach to these sorts of teachings and just, I guess, spiritual work in general, I guess you could say.
Yes, yes. And I am very curious about the whole topic of manifestation, which is a spiritual practice. And I am curious, especially because I am a scientist, so I have a very practical background, though I know that what we can know through our mind and practically it's limited. Like there's only certain things that you can measure and repeat, so science is limited. And I have also witnessed miracles and great things happening in my life that have no explanation, or well, have an explanation but cannot be scientifically proven. So there's more, and I've come to hear about the law of assumption and also the law of attraction quite recently. So I am curious to know, like, what's your background? When was the moment that you say, oh, there is something to this, like this is real?
I remember this kind of concept started thinking about it very specifically. My husband, my boyfriend at the time, I had met him when I first met him. He had talked a lot about this sort of stuff. His ex-girlfriend's father was really into all of that mindset stuff, and he had given him Bob Proctor CDs, which I don't know if anyone's familiar with Bob Proctor. He's kind of, I think, one of the, I would say, OGs of this whole thing. He would talk a lot about mindset, and he would listen to different people, and we'd listen to the recordings in his car, and it was something like, it's one of those things that I never thought about it consciously, but then when I started listening and hearing people talk specifically about like the law of attraction and how your mind influences your reality and all these things, it's one of those things that it felt new, but then also there was a part of me that was like, oh yeah, like, yeah, that makes sense, or yeah. And like looking back and different aspects of my life, I could see how that was in play. I could connect those dots. At the time, I wasn't conscious of these connections. But then reflecting on it, I was like, oh, yeah, I could see how certain beliefs I had or certain intentions I had set, how they had materialized. And I'm like, oh, yeah, like there is something to this. And I just got more interested in it. And I was, prior to learning about that specifically and having that concept introduced to me consciously, I was into like all that personal development and spirituality, and I kind of in that general sense, but something about that idea of your mindset influencing your reality, was particularly interesting to me. So I just started studying it more, and then I started my blog and I started writing about it, and it just was something I just felt really passionate about, and just I liked the idea of talking about it. And one thing that came to mind when you talked about your kind of background is, two things came to mind. Number one, and I can't speak to this a lot because I'm not familiar with the science of it, but quantum physics, a lot of quantum physics in particular, what they'll talk about kind of lends some credence to this idea that would largely be seen as, I guess, a spiritual sort of idea, but that sort of science sorts, I think, kind of valid for people that find more credence in like a scientific or something that can be observed, because that's how the mind is, and it's understandable. I feel like that kind of validates a lot of that teaching in a way, because they've made observations about everything's just energy and how thoughts affect they observe how the thinking or the observer affects what's being observed and all that. Again, I can't speak to it in detail. That aspect of it was never as interesting to me, but some people probably can. And also, the second thing was when you talked about how things can't be explained, there's things we can't understand. I think when you're on any kind of journey like this, any kind of any realm, this realm of spirituality in general, however you think of all those sorts of teachings, is there has to be that open-mindedness. There has to be a willingness to suspend, because not everything, because if we start to filter everything through logical, rational thinking, which has its place in life, of course, I'm not saying never use that. There's times when it's able, but through that filter, you'll hit a wall very fast and you really won't be able to keep going very far, because it almost immediately it's going to be like, no, like it doesn't make sense or whatever it is. So I think there has to be an openness to a different way of thinking, openness to accepting maybe we don't know things we think we know, we're things we're so sure of. Well, yeah, that's how it is. Or also to that willingness to kind of reverse our thinking about, because right now our belief would probably largely be based on, well, what I've observed so far, I believe this, and this because of what's happened in my life or what I observe in people around me or the human collective experience in general or whatever, right? So there has to be that willingness to be like, oh, maybe I need to try to put that aside and not stick to my beliefs based on what I've already observed.
Yeah, and it's very interesting what you say, that when you want to look at things through the rational filter, you're gonna hit a wall very soon, because there's only so much that meets the eye, and the eye is only one of our five senses. And it's like the way that we think can limit our ability to perceive, and it like blocks away, it walls us off from our full possibilities of perception. And
Yeah.
that reminds me of pleasure. Like, pleasure is a felt, sensed experience. Like, you can it's not the same to like eat a delicious mango that is so juicy that it's like the nectar is dripping through your mouth, and your hands are all full with this fleshy fruit. Then, I mean, I am drooling already. But it's not the same to have the experience than just to think and analyze it. Because if you just, like, you cannot rationalize pleasure. And imagine that I don't know, you came to the intimate encounter with your beloved, and you are just analyzing, like, yeah, your jawbones are so pretty, and like, but it's not the same as like facing the the reality here now, with the openness of awe and wonder. And I and I am very curious precisely on this aspect of manifestation, because I think a lot. And though I am also a dancer, I have like a rigid background from ballet, so I am good to disassociate. So I am curious about the role of the mind in manifestation, because you cannot do it from a rational stance, but you have to use your mind. So
Mm.
so I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I understand perfectly what you're saying. I think what I would say to that is, of course, like you said, the mind is involved because you have these thoughts and you're thinking about what you like, what you don't like. So there's power in intention, and intention is a thought, right? You think, I would like this, or I'd like this to change, or this to be different, or whatever you're thinking about. So I think the mind in that sense But to me, what I've always thought was, because you hear words like energy and vibration in these sorts of teachings, and we could think like, what does that mean? Like, what's my energy? What's my vibration? And to me, I always thought, like, to me, energy and vibration are just fancy words for feelings. So to me, it's like manifestation is something that happens, that connection between our inner world and our outer world. It's like an emotion, it's like the emotional content. It's like our emotions. It's not happening on a level of intellect. It's happening on that emotional level. So for what I always say to people is, because of course, and of course too, when we talk about something like manifestation, people are always usually focusing on the external world, right? I want a relationship, I want more money, I want a better job, I want a nicer apartment, and all of that's fine. And we're here having this physical experience. We're probably going to be focused externally to some degree, and that's fine. um, but it's always, to me, it's about, and you can set your intentions, but to me it's always about, the first step is always prioritizing your emotional well-being in a general sense in whatever way you can. And then when you do put specific energy towards something, it's like, it's cleaner, there's like less attachment, there's less, because if we feel better now, we'll feel less attached to what we still might want things, but that sense of attachment can might die down a bit if we prioritize our general emotional well-being now. So to speak to what you said, I might have gone off in a little bit of a tangent there, but generally what you were saying about, so the mind is like, we formulate the ideas and the thoughts and the wants, and then we will say needs. Usually, I need this, I need that. We don't want to think of it as a need, but yeah, to me it's really just focusing on emotional well-being in a if you think about energy vibration, what do I do with manifesting? To me it's like, focus on your emotional well-being. Yeah, set your intentions, do your letter to the universe. Again, there's power in all of that, but don't focus too much on the external. Oh, to me it's always keep it internal. And the internal, so if the external is a reflection of the internal world, you're taking care of the external while you're doing that. It's not a choice between either focusing on getting my stuff or focusing on my emotional well-being. We don't want to see it as that choice, because the ego will be like, well, I want my stuff. So I don't care about whether you're happy or not. I want like a boyfriend, or I want money, or whatever. So I always like to stress to people too, that internal focus doesn't really distract from the external. You're not choosing one or the other. It's like you're working on the level of cause with the emotional health, and whatever is happening in the mind, all the wants and the intentions and the focus, that's fine. But you want to keep it, think about, okay, if energy and vibration are just fancy words for feelings, then my tending to my emotional well-being, which for a lot of people, a big part of that might not necessarily be trying to cultivate positive energy or be positive or whatever. It would probably, a lot of it would center around working through any negativity they might feel right now, about if they feel badly about how things are in their life now, they feel badly about not having something. It's like, yeah, that's where you want to work on first. And then the positivity is a natural outcome of working through any attack. And you don't have to try so hard to be positive. It's not this thing you have to put all this effort into it. It's a natural byproduct of working through. So again, it goes back to, it's really about what's happening emotionally is like that primary focus.
Yeah, it gives me the impression of manifestation being a creative work, almost as an art work. Because, like, yeah, I want to feel happy, and then I go eat something. Sometimes too much of that thing. And I don't know if I make myself happy, but at least I like numb myself emotionally. And I mean, my I gotta say, I don't always do that. That's like my emergency go-to
Yeah.
strategy. But I just want to declare it up front that that's something that I sometimes do, because sometimes things like just plainly overwhelm me. But
Yeah.
I can tell the difference of I don't know, like life throwing me a curveball, and then like taking the time to process and digest and like sort it out and recalibrate and reorganize myself to come back to my center, and then
Mm.
in a better position to face that situation and find a solution when it's a problem. And also with the positive things, like I don't always have the capacity to welcome blessings, as sad as it sounds. Like sometimes there are great things happening in my life that I just let them fade away because I get freaked out or I feel undeserving or whatever. But the times that I catch myself like, okay, no, 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 I am I am getting a well-deserved compliment. So, okay, let me see if I can receive it. Okay, let
Mm.
me see if I can rest on my weekend. Like when you do the inner work, then the rest of that day and that season in your life normally has another tone to it. And I would say that it's even like magnetic in contrast to when we outsource the satisfaction. So it's hard how you mentioned that. Sometimes we want the thing and it's like, no, 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 I want my stuff. I don't care if I am happy. I want the new relationship. I want a raise in my job. I want the house. I just want it and I want it now. And I don't care if I am happy. I just want to have it. And when I'll have it, then I'm gonna be happy. So we
Hmm.
like procrastinate on satisfaction, and we
Yeah.
also like feel that we are not fully living until we achieve that external thing.
Yeah.
And it's like almost revolutionary to think it the other way around. Like instead
Yeah.
of the outer be sourcing my inner state, realizing that the power of intention and manifestation, as I understand it from you, is about creating that inner felt sense state that allows to loosen the grip of attachment, and that matches with the experience of receiving, of attaining, of the realization of that
Yeah.
being
Absolutely.
fulfilled.
Yeah, no, all that was great. Because to me, the inner work, there's two facets to it in a sense. Number one, we typically only want something external if we feel internal lack. So usually we're wanting something from a place of pain minimization. I feel lonely, I feel this, I feel that. And then if I'll get this, that'll take the feeling away. So that's where the attachment stems from. So you want to do the inner work is helpful because that attachment doesn't feel good. And especially when people start focusing very specifically on teachings like the law of attraction and manifestation, and they're actively, consciously trying to bring something into their life from that space, it tends to activate it even more strongly and it feels badly. You want to try to nip that in the bud. So you want to do the inner work to realize how I feel actually is not about my external circumstances. And when you realize it's not about the external, you might still want what you want, but the attachment, the sense of need starts to die down. And that's always a good thing. So that's helpful. But then also, too, the other facet is the inner work is so important. And I'm sure millions of people can testify to this in a million different ways. If you're not already happy or at peace or whatever within, getting what you want, that is going to be very anticlimactic emotionally. Maybe for a bit, there's a little bit of a high. Oh, look at me, I created this, or it temporarily dulls some bad feelings. But as far as a genuine, deeper sense of well being, the thing's not going to give it to you anyway. So it's like, and how many people can talk about they finally got the money, the success, the relationship, they still feel lonely. They have loads of money now, they still feel scarcity and fear and that they're going to lose everything, and they feel just as worried about money now as they did when their bank account was overdrawn every other week. So that's another thing of it too, is if we think if we're looking to the external, because ultimately what we're looking for is a feeling, we're looking for it in the wrong place. So it's like you're gonna, again, you might get what you want, but it'll feel like a very kind of the emotional payoff we're expecting, it's not going to be there because that was never the problem in the first place. So when we do the inner work first, and like I said before, most people are going to have some attachment to the external, and it's okay to enjoy your money and your relationship and what you've created. That's fine. But it's you'll enjoy that stuff a lot more when you're not looking to it to like fill some void or be that balm for your bad emotions or to give you something you perceive to be lacking. So yeah, the inner work is just where it's at, whether you, because even again, for people that you still really care about the outer, that's still going to benefit you because it's going to help it come more easily. Maybe you'll enjoy it more. So even for people that aren't as concerned about the inner work for the sake of it, at least for that, it's still pretty important and I would recommend it regardless. But yeah, because it's just because when we're focused externally, it's just it tends to just not feel good. And also too, if we go about trying to get things without the inner work, our mind is very powerful, so you don't have to do all this deep inner work to receive. That's not necessary. But like I was saying, it's like these are kind of hollow, they'll feel like very hollow victories if we just create from the egoic sense of the egoic sort of, again, which is very powerful and it could do a lot. But it's like it's ultimately all you're after are feelings, and they're not going to come from the external. And if anything too, sometimes getting the external without having the internal kind of all straightened out, it could actually exacerbate a lot of these negative feelings. I think people even, because they'll be like, wait, I thought I would be happy and now I'm not happy and I got what I want. That can send people kind of into a bit of a tailspin, and it can just, again, it could even just exacerbate what they were already dealing with emotionally, even though they now have what they believed would make them happy. But then when it's not, it's like, oh no, like what's going on here?
Yeah, and it makes me think about the people that win the lottery, that they lose all the money in 5 years or less
Yeah.
because of what you say. Like
Yeah.
now it makes sense. They didn't created the capacity to receive that. Like they didn't, almost as if emotions were the same as muscles that you practice and strengthen them.
Mm-hmm.
Not in the same way, like from the mind, like yeah, I'm gonna do my reps, but from a curiosity and disposition standpoint of cultivating the positive energies, which then somehow can act as a container when you actually receive what you want. Like, okay, I am super lucky of having won $1 million at the lotto, and I know what to do with this luck and with this abundance. But if in turn you only have practiced lack, then what's gonna operate from a subconscious level is what you practiced the most, and that's why people lose it. And then it's like, okay, so there's a huge distinction between desire and pleasure, and you cannot desire what you already have. Like you can only desire what you don't have. And in contrast, you cannot enjoy what you don't have. Like I cannot enjoy a mango if I don't have it here. But it would seem like paradoxical when it's about manifestation, because when you want to manifest something and you're desiring that something, you are actually like vibrating from the place of lack. So you should actually, as I understand so far in this conversation, so what you want is to actually find the pleasure of that achievement or realization, even if you don't have it. So, like, my question is, I don't know if this is gonna make sense, but how can you have a how can you want to have the boyfriend, the house, the vacations, the whatever thing that you want to manifest, how can you want it if the requirement is not to want it? And how can you be in the state of having when you don't have it? I
Yeah.
think that question is the
No,
magic
that's
question.
a good question. So one of the things I would say, and I've said this before, that's people have found really helpful, because like what you're talking about, I think, right, is people refer to like acting as if.
Yes.
Act like you're already skinny, you already have the boyfriend, you already have the money, and people are like, well, what does that even look like? Because I don't. So to me, I've always said, instead of acting as if, imagine what if. And what I mean by that is, what if I really believed all of this stuff? That what if I was someone that believed all of these sorts of teachings were true? How would that person feel? How would that person act? 'Cause it's not about trying to embody a very specific type of person that has this or that. It's trying to embody a person in a more general sense of, well, if I believed all of this was true, then I wouldn't be stressed out right now. I wouldn't be angry. I wouldn't be fearful. I wouldn't be forcing bad feeling action with a strong attachment to an outcome. So for anyone people have always found that helpful. Don't worry so much about acting as if you're a specific, like you're skinny or you have the money. Like if you find a way to do that, then great, do it. But if that feels like not good, because the whole point of doing everything is to feel good. And for most people, that's not going to feel good probably, because it's going to feel like inauthentic, or they're like, am I doing, they're going to worry about if they're doing it right, or it's going to feel like they're going to be stressed out. It's going to make them more attached. And so it's like, no, what if I was someone who believed all of this? How would that person move through the world? How would that person feel right now? Thinking about if I was someone someone that embodied these teachings, not just intellectually appreciated them, but like has internalized them, what would that look like? And that's a help, because again, it goes back to that more general sense of general well-being, general emotional upkeep or whatever. And then if people feel inspired to focus on something specific with an exercise, a gratitude journal, or whatever, you can find a million manifesting exercises all over the internet, then great, do that stuff with the specifics. But that's another, and this kind of ties into what I would say is, you don't have to be so specific about everything all the time. I always think of it like God, universe, spirit, infinite mind, however people think of that force that seems to intervene in our human affairs on this world. They know, they've got the message, they've heard the pleas, they've seen, they know you want a boyfriend, they know you want money. Spirit's like, yeah, I know all the things you humans tend to want and care about and value and think are important. Just focus. Again, it's like, to me, I've always found it was almost like the less I focused on manifestation specifically, the more things seem to change without much participation on my part, without a lot of my mental or emotional effort. And I was like, cool, I kind of like this, because doing it the other way kind of felt bad, and it felt like tense, and like there was attachment there and pressure, and I couldn't be in the moment because I was always focused on the future and what I didn't have and when was it going to show up. And I was like, nah, I don't really like that. So yeah, that's what I would say. Like, don't worry about as if, or trying to reconcile these feelings of lack and trying to make all this stuff. It's like, just think about, if I believed all of this stuff, like, and it doesn't mean you might act that way all the time. There's still fear, there's still attachment, that's fine, but it's just keeping in mind, ultimately what I'm being tasked with doing here is changing my thinking and changing my belief system. So if I was someone that embraced this sort of belief system, like what would that look like? And again, you might not act that way. The actions of that sort of person might feel very uncomfortable or impractical or whatever, and that's fine. But it's just getting the mind turning of like, this is what I'm actually trying to do here. I'm trying to embody a general belief system. At the end of the day, it's not so much about what can I do to get this, and this. It's like, what I'm really focusing on is changing my overall belief system, my overall focus, my overall emotional and mental state of mind.
Love it. Because this perspective allows you to work with the reality of this moment, with who you
Yes.
are now and your present. And it's like, okay, if I was someone that really had this belief system, would I be so attached to the outcome? I, of course not. And,
Mm-hmm.
and the great thing is that It's almost as if the answer to that question like blooms from you, from this back of the subconscious, and let's go. Like, yeah, like no, I wouldn't be worried about.
Yeah.
I love that question because it's not an imposition that I have to embody the state and I have to feel like $1 million trust fund baby.
Yeah.
It's like, no, what if I just resonated with this? And it's almost like you get
It's
a
a relief. Yeah.
yeah,
Just
like
feeling like you always have to be like focusing and scheming and trying to figure out and strategizing how to get what you want. And like I said, people can create from that space. The ego mind is powerful, intention is powerful, where we focus is powerful. And if we combine that with actions that are meant to directly influence these outcomes. But like I was saying before, it's like, it's not, that's not what you're really after at the end of the day. So it's a lot of wasted effort on like getting stuff that's going to be like kind of a letdown once you're like, oh, that wasn't really, because people have had that before, right? A lot of people, like, for example, they'll set arbitrary goals around their business. I'm going to make this amount of money this month or this many new followers or whatever. And it's fine. But again, they're meaningless goals in a sense. So it's like, so if you don't reach that number, what does that mean? Are you a failure? Or if you only made $9,000 instead of 10, and then, so because then when people reach those sorts of goals, it's not going to be enough. Then there's going to be a new goal, and that's okay too. But then it's like, there's never going to be a point where you're like, okay, I'm satisfied. That's good. And I'm happy now with that. And if everything stays just like this, I'm fine. It's like, no, it's always going to be like, I always say if the ego had a religion, it would be more. I want more. I need more. It's like a black hole, infinite hole that no matter what you put in it, it'll just swallow it up. And it's like, okay, what's next? Like, I want more. So yeah, so working with the mind and creating. So for me, for example, when I like, my ideal clients are people who, like normal people, they probably want stuff, and that's fine. I want stuff too, but they've reached a point in their journey where they feel more like, at least 51% of them is like, you know what, I am more concerned with my internal well-being. I do care more about, I just want to feel good. And I understand that that's actually a much easier way to change my outside. And I'm sick of the attachment and the focus. So it's like, and people that aren't there, that's okay too. That's not wrong. It's not bad. Everyone's at a different point of the journey. It's not better or worse to be at one point or another. People that aren't as interested in inner work and they're more focused externally, that's okay too. They're not wrong. They're not bad. That might be like, just that's what they're all about. It's fine. But for people that are really at least partially concerned with their internal well-being, that's really where you want to put your focus. And it's, again, and the outside, the world will keep on turning. Things will happen in your life. It's not like once you stop focusing there, your life just grinds to a halt. It's like stuff will keep happening and coming and arriving. And so, yeah, but it's really just because at the end of the day, everything we want is because we think, I'll get a feeling I want. Because if there was no emotional component to any of this, we wouldn't care about any of it. Because it's all about, well, this feels bad. I want to change it. I think that'll feel good. So I want that. I want this to go away because I don't like how it feels. So it's like, oh, so at the end of the day, all I'm after are feelings. And if all of these spiritual teachings will tell me, whether it's Buddhism or wherever, whatever, all these different teachings or teachers, one of the, a very common theme is, happiness can only be found within inside of you. It can't be found. I'm like, okay, so if there's any truth to that, then if I'm focusing anywhere but internally primarily, then I'm probably setting myself up for a bumpier ride. And again, it is what it is and it's fine, but it's just trying to, and that's a big shift to make. And most people might be straddling the two worlds maybe forever to some degree, because there is this human world that seems very real and we're very invested in it. But it's just keeping in mind, okay, what I'm really after at the end of the day. And when we can remind ourselves of that, it can kind of temper when we are caught up in the outside, when we're caught up with something in our business or money, or there's something scaring us and we're like, oh, what's going to happen with this? And we're getting attached to an outcome or hoping to avoid something we don't want to happen or whatever it is. It's like, okay, I won't get totally sucked into that all the time now. Maybe I'll kind of be able to pull back and, you know, calm it down a little bit and go back to where I really need to be focusing.
Yeah, not getting sucked into the maze of desire, into the void.
Yeah,
Because yeah, like when desire gets like mixed with ego, like that's a bad combo. It's like
yeah,
the dark hole that it's almost like predatory and arbitrary and always wants more. And I believe there's a lot of conditioning in our culture in regards to following like that that path of hustling and never resting and the never
yeah,
and the and the I can get no satisfaction
yeah,
from Mick Jagger. And yeah, like wow, ego, religion is more like
yeah,
is more, which brings us to be like the Buddhist image of the hungry ghosts that were
hmm,
like human shaped, but with a very small and thin neck and a huge belly. So they couldn't swallow everything that they needed to apparently fill their infinite bellies. And how does that looks like? It looks like setting arbitrary goals in your business. Like if I don't reach the 10K and I only reach 9,099 with 99
yeah,
cents, it means that generally that I am not enough. Like we default
mhm,
into like that self-criticism and self-punishment, or I'm gonna lose the baby weight by the first like 3 months or 6 months or whatever,
yeah,
or I'm gonna be super fit to show off my bikini body. And and it's crazy driving. Like another thing is that I am not gonna go on a date until I lose weight, or for guys
mhm,
probably until I make enough money. So at the same time, like it's like fueling the emotional muscle of lack and
yeah,
and scarcity, while at the same time minimizing and despising and taking for granted all the blessings that have already been answered.
yeah,
Like
hmm,
you and I, we have electricity.
yeah,
Just like we have electricity, and on top of that, we have a ceiling and an
yeah,
internet and a digital. Like we are so blessed and fortunate. But we Westerns, I think we have a hard time in inner sourcing our state, our embodied state.
mm,
And yeah, like it's a whole culture. So I feel what I'm getting is that something key to actually get what you want, to arrive not to the 9K, but to arrive to the 10K, and to lose the 30 pounds, not the 20. Like okay,
yeah,
if you're really serious on getting what you want, the path is not so much out external, going outwards farther, fast and furious, but actually like shifting the focus inward and become more concerned with our internal being and the emotional components that are making for your current state of being. Like
yeah,
how much pleasure are you feeling now in your body?
hmm,
And then by practicing that, you are creating like the capacity to actually receive your 10K or your dream body or your relationship,
yeah,
whatever, and really receive it, like really welcome it, which leads me to gratitude. I feel that we have practiced more the striving, the hustling, even the yearning than its counterpart, that is the gratitude. Like We are
Yeah.
very good to the we are very desirous. We are good for the but we don't know how to receive. We don't know how to be thankful and grateful. So would you share with us a little exercise to embody the pleasure of receiving, the pleasure of having your wish fulfilled, that is gratitude?
I would say with something with gratitude, I would just say when people try to, because I think counting blessings and seeing what you're grateful for now is very helpful. But I think where people stumble is they do it because they're told to do that, and it becomes a very like intellectual exercise. And but it's creating on the level of emotion. So I would say if people are trying to do something in the terms of embodying gratitude as a sense of like this will be helpful for me, really try to think about it like on an emotional level. And this doesn't mean to think just put all this effort into it, but really try to think about something that you're genuinely grateful for, but not just intellectually. Really try to embody, like take a moment to really embody the feeling of being grateful for it. And it's not something, don't try to pressure it or force it, but again, because like I said, a lot of what happens too is a lot of personal growth work. It becomes very like rote and like, well, people tell me to do this or that to get what I want, or I'll feel better if I do this. And the whole point of all those, any exercise, is to make sure it makes you feel better. And a lot of times people aren't getting any emotional benefit because they're just kind of doing it like, oh, I write my gratitude list every day. It's like, yeah, that's awesome. But like, do you genuinely feel anything when you make that list? People might be like, nah, not really. It just again becomes like an intellect, just a thing you do to. It's almost like people feel like it's something they need to do to kind of get out of the way. So I got to do my manifesting exercises or whatever. And speaking of exercises, one exercise I find very helpful, which some people might be resistant to it, especially if they're still very externally focused. But if you're feeling right now like stressed or anxious or frustrated, whatever it is, it's like a feelings dump. It's very simple. It's not a very specific sort of journaling exercise. I would recommend literal writing. I feel like that's better than typing, but if you want to type it on a computer, that's fine too. Just like write out without any judgment or censoring everything that's bothering you, no matter how silly it seems, how childish. Don't, well, as a spiritual person, I shouldn't feel that way, so I'm not going to admit that I feel. It's like, no, just write it, whatever it is, no matter how it sounds, don't judge it. Because I find that feelings dump is very helpful for like energetic reset. I feel like there's power to taking stuff out of the head and just getting it out. And you can do whatever you want with that piece of paper. You can burn it, you can analyze that. To me, that's irrelevant to the exercise, what you do with the information afterwards. To me, it's just like, just get it out of your head. And I find that very helpful, because like I was saying before, for a lot of us, our biggest barrier is not we're lacking positivity or we're not cultivating sufficient positive energy. We have a lot of stuff from conditioning, our childhood, our bad marriage, we were bullied when we were a kid, our job is stressful, stuff with our family, whatever things you think about yourself. So it's like, to me, and I don't mean that like a negative, like you got to focus on all your pain and work through your pain every day, but we do have to acknowledge where, because like I said, all of the wanting, it's coming from a pain. There's that pain there of like lack, scarcity, not feeling good enough, feeling like I feel this and this, and I feel like getting this would make me feel better. So it's like, get that out of your system. Don't let that dominate. Don't let that serve as the fuel for the journey. Because like I was saying before, even if you manage to get what you wanted, which you certainly can, it'll be a hollow victory. And like you were saying too, with trouble receiving and deserving, that's another component too to all of this, is like, for a lot of people, if they were to get what they wanted tomorrow in the frame of mind they're in now, they'd probably push it right back out very quickly. It would be like, I don't deserve this. I'm not comfortable with this. Like, I don't deserve this great boyfriend, or the money would make them uncomfortable. The success would make them uncomfortable, and they'd sabotage it in some way. So again, the inner work too, for anyone that is very externally focused, it is going to help. It is better to focus that way, because if that stuff really is so important to you, you want to do what you can to make sure you enjoy it when it does show up. Because that's the point of getting it, is to feel like it is making some sort of positive impact in your existence.
I am loving it. Yeah, because it's like, okay, the sun is out there and it comes out every day. and it's almost like, okay, your health is there. And if you get sick, it's because there's some crap happening in the system. So it's not about learning how to be healthy. It's like just take the trash out of your house every day. Like do the emotional dump and vomit
Yeah,
all your feelings in a piece of paper without judgment, no matter how spiritual person you are, whatever, and just let it out of your system. So what is in your essence can can shine through you like the sun.
that's yeah. That's so good that I love that you said that because I was going to say that. Everything you're trying to become, you already are. It's all there. It's just being obscured by all of this conditioning and all of these negative thoughts and erroneous thinking and the emotion that that erroneous thinking has created. It's like rain on a windshield or grime on a glass. Like it's just it just like it distorts everything. Underneath that grime, the glass is perfect, clear, and shiny. Like that's you. You're perfect, clear, and shiny, and there's just some grime on top that needs to be wiped away. So that's another thing too to keep in mind is everything that you think you need to be or become, it's already within you. You just have to get rid of what's obscuring it, and that's where the emotional focus on the emotional health comes in. And that's one thing I'd say too to people listening to this, like really the most important, like I would invite people to think about what's one thing I could start doing right now to improve my, I call it general vibe management. It's like what's one thing I can maybe start doing, and that might the start could actually be stop doing something, perhaps to subtracting something maybe that I think would enhance my emotional well-being overall, whatever it is. You know what? I feel really good when I exercise first thing in the morning. I'm going to try to really get back into that. I'm going to try to not spend so much time on social media or on the news. Or again, the whole point is doing what you feel good. That's different for everybody. There's no set of things like you have to meditate, you have to do this or that. It's like, no, everyone's different. So it's really about what resonates with you personally. So I would invite people to think about what's one thing that I could try to start incorporating into my day. And again, it could be more about subtracting, taking something away that's like kind of a energetic emotional saboteur that's like, yeah, this is really kind of messing with, it's like, where am I undermining my efforts at feeling better? Like what can I what can I tweak there?
Yeah, I love it because it's not like a chore. It's something
Yeah,
that is like more open, and it's almost like there's more leeway in regards to yourself. And
yeah,
and this openness at the same time allows for natural, genuine appreciation. So it's not
yeah,
that gratitude and now you have to be great, like you're having a shit day and on top of that you have to be grateful. It's like you're gonna end up hating having to be grateful,
yeah,
which into yeah, and it's like it's even like aggressive, but it's a fine trap that you like catch it in immediately, and it's like no, it's about the sincere feeling, almost like okay, so the sun is out and there's a little rain and then wow, a rainbow, and you catch it, and it's like okay, that's gratitude. It's something that you are feeling it. It's not something that you are forcing yourself to feel. It doesn't
yeah.
that way.
Yeah, when you try to just do the overall well-being, these feelings, yeah, they sort of spring forth naturally rather than, and of course, at first there might be a sense of some kind of conscious effort at trying to shift into certain feeling states because we kind of have to break the conditioning. But largely it's you focus on the well-being overall and you just naturally start feeling better. And another thing too about the overall, what I call the general vibe management is helpful is because as people go on this journey, especially if they're going to become more internally focused, they might find themselves wading into some emotionally muddy waters. Stuff might start coming up. You start thinking about things that maybe don't feel so great, or you start you're getting more in touch with bad feelings that have maybe been there, but you didn't realize how strongly you felt them. When you tend to your emotional well-being overall, it makes you more resilient and it makes it easier to go to those places. You don't feel as fragile and as easily shattered. Like you feel like, okay, I can handle this. I can do that.
Yeah, becoming more emotionally resilient by focusing on the well being in a gentle way,
Mhm.
not as a chore, not as an imposition, but something that you actually enjoy. So
Yeah.
yeah, this is fantastic, Kelly. How can we learn more of what you're doing?
The best way is to go right to my website, livelifemadetoorder.com. You'll see I have literally hundreds of pieces of content. I have like 200 something podcasts, probably a few hundred blog posts. My site's like about 10 years old now, I think in March. From there, you can get links to I have social media, my Instagram, my Facebook. Email me through all of that, contact me. I have information about I do private coaching. I have some courses and products, that go more in depth if you resonate with, my point of view on things. So yeah, I love hearing from people. So if you did come by to visit and you had any questions, I love, just email me or message me on wherever contact me from. I always love hearing from people. So don't be shy to reach out with any thoughts about anything I said here or anything in general or a podcast you listen to. I really like connecting with people that find my work.
Great. Thank you so much, Kelly.
Thank you for having me. You have such a great energy, and you were so thoughtful in your own insights, and it was a great conversation.
Likewise, very happy to have you here, Kelly. And thank you, Essentialist, also for joining us in this great episode. So go visit Kelly's website at livelifemade-to-order.com, and you will find all her social media there. So you also go and follow there everywhere. And if you haven't already, go grab the free guide to awaken sensuality at my website, candiaraquel.com, which is my name, www.candiaraquel.com. Until next time, remember to take the time to sense your fire so you can share the flame.